Look at your hands right now. Flex them into a fist. Whatever strength you feel in that grip, the average person living 10,000 years ago could very likely beat you in an arm wrestle, outrun you over 20 miles, and chew through food that would crack your fillings. We've been told a story where evolution moves in one direction. Forward, upward, toward improvement. The species gets smarter, technology gets better, and surely, somewhere in that arc, the human body gets stronger too. The skeletons say otherwise. Bone density, muscle mass, running performance, even the simple health of your teeth. By nearly every physical measure, scientists can recover from the ground. The further back in time you go, the more capable the human body becomes. This isn't a guess, it's written directly into the bones. Start with the skeleton itself. In 2015, anthropologist Christopher Ruff and a team of researchers published a study in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences that measured something most people never think about. The cross-section of human leg bones tracked across thousands of years, from the last hunter-gatherers of the Mesolithic through the rise of farming in the Iron Age. Bone isn't static. It responds to how hard you use it, growing denser and thicker under repeated mechanical stress. The same way a blacksmith's forearm thickens from years of hammering. What Ruff's team found was a long, steady decline. Earlier researchers studying the same kind of leg bones from Upper Paleolithic and Mesolithic Europeans had already noted just how reinforced they were. Dense enough that anthropologist Brigitte Holt's analysis found their structural strength comparable to many modern endurance athletes. Hunter-gatherers, just by living their ordinary lives, were carrying skeletons built for serious physical output. Then, agriculture arrived, and the bones changed almost immediately. Within a few thousand years of farming taking hold across Europe, that same robust leg structure had measurably thinned. Less walking, less running, less carrying heavy loads over rough terrain. The body builds exactly as much skeleton as it needs, and farming needed less. Your skeleton, compared to a hunter-gatherer's, isn't weaker because something is wrong with you. It's weaker because nothing in your life has ever asked it to be strong. The running ability goes even deeper than bone density. In 2004, biologists Dennis Bramble and Daniel Lieberman published a paper in Nature called Endurance Running and the Evolution of Homo, laying out something that still surprises people. The human body is, structurally, one of the best long-distance running machines on the planet. We have a long Achilles tendon that stores and releases energy like a spring. We have a large gluteus maximus that barely activates while walking but fires hard during running, stabilizing the trunk. We have a nuchal ligament at the back of the neck, found in almost no other primates, that keeps the head stable while the rest of the body pounds across uneven ground. And we sweat. Across the entire animal kingdom, almost nothing else can dump heat through sweat glands the way humans can, which means we can keep moving in conditions that force four-legged animals to stop and pant. None of this is accidental. Anthropologist Louis Liebenberg spent years documenting something called persistence hunting among the sand people of the Kalahari Desert. Hunters who chase an animal like a kudu for hours under the midday sun, not by being faster in a sprint, but by simply never stopping while the animal overheats, has to stop and pant in the shade, and eventually collapses from heat exhaustion. No spears thrown from a distance. No traps. Just a human being, running, for as long as it takes. Scientists now believe this exact strategy, run consistently for hundreds of thousands of years, is what shaped the human body into the endurance machine it still technically is, even though almost nobody alive today has ever used it that way. So if the body was built for that kind of relentless physical capability, what actually broke it? The honest answer is the thing most of us were taught to think of as humanity's greatest leap forward. Agriculture. When researchers studied the transition from hunting and gathering to farming across multiple ancient populations, the pattern was strikingly consistent. In a major review published in Economics and Human Biology, researchers Amanda Mumert and colleagues tracked stature, bone health, and disease markers across the shift to agriculture in regions including the Americas, Europe, and Asia. Average height dropped. In multiple regions, several centimeters of height simply disappeared from the population within a few thousand years of adopting farming. Markers of nutritional stress, visible as small ridges in tooth enamel called enamel hypoplasia, became dramatically more common. Anemia increased. Infectious disease increased. Living in permanent settlements next to domesticated animals, surrounded by stored grain that attracted pests, packed closely together with neighbors in a way hunter-gatherers never were, created the exact conditions disease needs to spread and mutate. When researchers studied the transition from hunting and gathering to farming across multiple ancient populations, the pattern was strikingly consistent. And then there's the teeth. Pre-agricultural human skulls, again and again across the archaeological record, show remarkably few cavities. Bioarchaeologists studying hunter-gatherer remains commonly find cavity rates below 2% of teeth examined. The diet simply didn't feed the right bacteria. Wild meat, tubers, nuts, and seasonal fruit don't linger on tooth surfaces turning into acid the way starch and sugar do. The moment agriculture introduced a diet dominated by processed grain, wheat, barley, rice, maize, ground down and cooked into something soft and starchy, cavity rates in some populations rose into the double digits almost immediately and have never gone back down since. The thing that finally let humans stop starving also gave them, for the first time in the species' history, rotting teeth. Here's the part that should genuinely unsettle you. Agriculture is usually taught as an unambiguous upgrade. More food, permanent homes, the birth of civilization, and in some very real, long-term ways it was. Eventually, it allowed for larger populations, surplus food, specialization, writing, cities, everything that followed. But for the actual individual human being living through that transition, in the body they were born into, it was, on balance, a downgrade. Shorter, sicker, worse teeth, weaker bones. The species got more powerful collectively while each person inside it got physically worse off. That trade-off, collective progress purchased with individual decline, is a pattern that, frankly, hasn't stopped since. Because the decline didn't end with agriculture, it's still running in the same direction right now. A 2016 study published in the Journal of Hand Therapy, comparing millennials to 1985 norms, found that young adults today are measurably weaker in the hands than young adults were just a few decades ago. A population shift happening within living memory, not over millennia. Bone density continues to fall as daily life requires less from the skeleton. Elevators instead of stairs, cars instead of walking, chairs instead of squatting, soft processed food instead of anything that requires real chewing force. The same mechanism that thinned hunter-gatherer bones into farmer bones is still operating on you, just faster and with far more comfortable furniture. Researchers studying this mismatch even gave it a name. In 1985, physician Boyd Eaton and anthropologist Melvin Connor published a paper in the New England Journal of Medicine arguing that conditions like obesity, type 2 diabetes, and heart disease aren't random misfortune. They're what happens when a body built by millions of years of one environment gets dropped into a completely different one within a handful of generations. They called these diseases of civilization, conditions that were almost non-existent in hunter-gatherer populations and exploded the moment diets shifted toward refined carbohydrates and daily life shifted toward sitting still. Your genome hasn't had time to catch up. It's still running ancient software on hardware nobody asked it to support. So no, this isn't an argument to abandon modern life and go live in the woods. The vaccines are real. The reduced child mortality is real. Dentistry, ironically, undoes a problem agriculture itself created, but it's worth sitting honestly with what the bones are actually telling you. The body you're walking around in right now was assembled over millions of years to run for hours in open heat, to carry real loads across rough ground, to crush through food that fought back, to survive almost entirely on its own physical capability. That design didn't disappear. It's still sitting underneath you, mostly unused, like a sports car that has spent its entire existence parked in a garage. Somewhere in your skeleton is the same architecture that once let a human being outrun an animal across an entire afternoon under the desert sun. It's just been a very, very long time since anyone asked it to.